The most important and the first step would be to try to talk to the children and their families and their communities. And we know it's not easy, and there are lots of challenges, including resources and access in contexts which are often affected by extreme violence, and so security is an issue. But if you can access the children and their communities and talk to them and try to understand what it is that has changed so dramatically in the life of a child, the losses they've experienced and the grievances that they have, that has pushed them to join an armed group that can be an extremist armed group using extreme violence against their best interest, then we can start thinking about how to equip ourselves for the type of programs and interventions that are needed, so that we can rebuild the stable and protective and nourishing societies that they need in order to grow safely into adulthood.
Youth, for what they are far, far more of an effective entity than what we used to be. When we used to say we engage young people and so on, it was tokenism. But now, because of the social communications and all the information they have, and their ability to influence others, in direct time and with material that comes from everywhere, there is a far more power base in the youth than we imagine. And so the communities have not recognized that, in fact, the youth can be an extraordinary power capability, a force multiplier of them getting the messages out. And so I believe that it is in the direct engagement of youth who will sniff out those loners, who will sniff out those who are caught up in whatever sort of quandary in their life, and will either diffuse it themselves among themselves, or come forward if the community has structured itself to welcome the information and assist those that might be influenced by what is going on, and be able to turn them back online. So the greatest deficiency in right now the communities is the non-recognition of the extraordinary real-time power that the youth have, which makes them near equal to the adults in their ability and innovation and commitment to wanting to protect their peers, and of course to recognize the milieu in which they're in and protect that. And that's the key. Not social media is being used as the weapon to indoctrinate, but in fact the social media is the force multiplier to the young people that has empowered them now to be much more proactive and engaged.
Well, first of all, we have to make sure that our responses are genuinely child-focused. And this means that we need to be sensitive to their needs as the children express their needs, which means we need to listen. We need to listen to them, and we need to respond as they need from us. And it also means that we need to take care of their caregivers. As children need to learn and to experience becoming children again, their parents need to re-experience and to relearn becoming parents again. And so does the community. So healing is all-encompassing, from the child to the family to the community. And this is the way we can build resilience. Because resilience is about children being able to bounce back, regardless of all the difficulties and in spite of all the things that has happened to them, that they're able to bounce back and rebuild a future with whatever is left, or even with nothing. But if we are there and we provide that support and the hope and the confidence that the future exists, then I believe that children will be able to build up the resilience, and that they will become major contributors to that future which we are helping them to envision again.
Improving and strengthening the resilience of communities and families is very, very important when it really comes to the protection and well-being of children. There have been several interventions which UNICEF has been involved in various contexts, such as the armed conflict in MENA, that is the Middle East and North Africa. We have been able to provide social cash transfers to families, wherein they are resources are very, very limited, and children, rather than children, moving to activities that will distort their access to education, or moving on to negative coping mechanisms, such as exploitative child labor. We do make sure that children stay in school through the provision of cash within the families, and we monitor the situation of these children so that their protection and well-being is secured. And at the same time, we do realize that children and families and even communities do have strengths. So we look at the resources that are within those families. How can we really make sure those resources are well utilized for the protection of children, and we contribute to those assets and stores that are within those households. The communities themselves could also monitor the protection of children, and they will also respond to any vulnerability that they do face using their own, whether be it financial resources, whether use it physical assets, such as food, which they could also give to poor and vulnerable households, or even in the case whereby we could look in terms of, water sources. So these are all various interventions that we do undertake to just make sure that the lives and protection of children is sustained, and at the same time improving their well-being in the communities where they live.